myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. It feels alright.
Good evening. Welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. It is Wednesday evening, and thanks to LNER, we've had to swap things around this week because my train to London, which should have been getting me into the capital at 10 to 1, didn't. It got me into York at 11 o'clock, where I sat patiently for 3 hours and then came back to Newcastle. So I've had a lovely day out, albeit at York train station, not actually in York. And then I got back to Newcastle for about 3:30, just in time for me tea. So, great day.
I mean, even when there's not a strike, they can still knacker you up.
I'm never going to complain. I do love the train, and LNER are spot on normally, but unfortunately, the overhead lines came down today, and it was tragic, really. Smashed a window of a train, and by the sounds of it, and all hell breaks loose. And me sympathy with everybody who had to travel, and me sympathy with the staff. Including me dear missus, who has to put up with all of this situation. But listen, I'm here.
The saint.
Thanks to John, thanks to Malcolm for rearranging and for jumping on tonight live at a slightly later time of 7:30. Don't forget tomorrow, in case I forget later, Ben Jacobs, a pre-record I did earlier with him this week, will be now on at 6 o'clock tomorrow night. So you still get your taste of Ben Jacobs this week, Three Amigos. At this moment in time, still 5 o'clock on Friday. Okay, lads, let's start off with the Euro win at the weekend by the ladies. Malcolm, you've played for England. You've worn the white and the 3 lions on your chest. How significant was that for women's football at the weekend?
Absolutely huge. I cannot... it's impossible to exaggerate on this. It is so massive for the game of football in this country, and hopefully across Britain. And they fully deserved it without any shadow of a doubt. I've not been able to take women's football seriously because it's different to the men's game. And just trying to see it for what it truly is, I was finding it somewhat difficult. But this competition has completely swayed me. It really has. And I was so impressed. And I was so impressed with the way that they played against Sweden, and then the final against Germany. Absolutely brilliant. And when Germany equalised, I felt that England started to really falter, and I thought they're going to lose this. Then they're not going to get back into the game, and Germany started to put pressure on. But England, they had this knack of breakaways all the while, and they finished up getting into the German box and scored. It looked a relatively simple goal, but the players, they got upfield so quickly and in numbers, and they were really all out to win it. I was so impressed with them. I cannot praise them enough. And I thought the football was good. I'm where I've not been really, I haven't enjoyed it before. This competition, I really did enjoy it, and well done to the ladies. They thoroughly deserved it, and I hope that it just lifts the women's game here in this country.
John, you're nodding your head in approval there.
Absolutely, I was absolutely riveted by it. I can stand us beating the Germans, I really can, because there's been many occasions that hasn't happened in the men's game since '66, although there was a particular game where Malcolm had a big say in us beating the Germans when he got his first England goal. But I loved that. And what I also loved is, you know, the Northeast have had a lot to do with the development of women's soccer, in as much as the players that have been provided to the England team. Steph Houghton missed out on this one because of injury, which was awful for her. But we've got to remember that Beth Mead, who was the top goal scorer, got the golden boot, was from up here, played for Sunderland in her time. Lucy Bronze, brought up on Holy Island, for goodness sake. I mean, now they should get a blue plaque and put it up on Holy Island. How many superstars have come out of Holy Island? It's wonderful. And Jill Scott, who's got 160 caps, is ours. So the Northeast have been significant in providing and pushing women's football. And that's marvellous. And I thought the whole thing was terrific. Like Malcolm, I thought the skill level was excellent. Was really excellent. It was exciting, and the atmosphere was wonderful. When we were in the Euro finals, the men's team, we had the ugly scenes at Wembley, etc., etc. Fans, I'm talking about. When the gate crashed and went in, the family atmosphere, etc., at the women's final was quite exceptional. It was terrific. I just hope there's a knock-on effect, and we don't just let this evaporate. We get it into schools for young girls to be able to have it as part of their lessons, etc., etc. It's no good just having it as a one-off, saying, isn't that wonderful, and then going back to what it is. We've got to build on it, and it's worth building on, and it captivated the nation. And not just women and young girls, but the men were fascinated and thoroughly enjoyed it. And I did very, very much. Terrific. Well done, the Lionesses. And we've got the World Cup to look forward to with the Lionesses as well. So let's get behind them there.
Yeah, 100%. I remember speaking on one of those local football debates. I think it was Seat in the Stands with a very young Eamon Holmes. And I found it on video tape a couple of months ago. And I was on there, must be about 25 years ago now, with some representatives from Cowgate Kestrels.
Oh, I remember them, yes.
And I was the only person in the audience that said, I can see women's football developing and them eventually getting crowds as big as the men's game. And I think it was a very young Brian McNally sitting as the journalist and Doug Wetherill, both shaking their heads saying I was talking an absolute load of rubbish. So just a reminder to those lads, I wasn't.
Steve, you've always talked a quality load of rubbish, mate. You always have.
Thank you, John. I think
the journalists that you mentioned, they are stuck in somewhat of a time warp.
Okay, let's get on to Newcastle United matters. And James Madison, Malcolm, is the big talking point this week. Back in January, when the transfer window opened, he was the man who was top of my list, if you remember, when we sat and did these shows. And somebody who I said would be a massive step up for Newcastle. At the time, I think he was 24. He's 25 now. Somebody who's won the Premier League, someone who's won the FA Cup, someone who still wants to play for England. I just said that would be the sign I would go for. We didn't get him in January, but lo and behold, here we are now with just less than a month to go in the window, and Newcastle are making a serious attempt to bring him in. What's your thoughts?
All positive. I think he'd be an absolutely brilliant signing. I really do. He's an attacking midfielder who will get forward. He will score goals. He will make goals. And I could see him linking up with Bruno. And it could be a quite devastating midfield that we have with Madison in. And for me, absolutely go for it.
Yeah, John, it's a massive play by Newcastle to try and bring in Madison, and there's a bit of gamesmanship going on between the two clubs, but no doubt Leicester need to sell somebody, and they haven't brought anybody in yet with time ticking away in this transfer window. What's your views on Madison, John?
I would love him to come here. I think it would be a huge statement of intent. We've had some magnificent signings. Botman's latest one, getting Bruno in, but they didn't have the wow factor the day they signed. Bruno's become the superstar through the realization of what he is. Botman will become that. Trippier was a La Liga winner. But this guy has got the pedigree, and I'm looking for a major statement signing, and he would be that. Last season, in all competitions, all the cups and the league, he scored 18 goals and had 15 assists. Now, I tell you what, to get that sort of quality, you've normally got to buy two players. You buy a bloke that can score 18 goals, and you buy a bloke that can produce 15 assists. To get them all in the one package is quite incredible. I think that he would be a super signing for Newcastle. And he would be a statement in the way that we had statements with the entertainers. When Newcastle bought Ginola and then bought Les Ferdinand and then ended up with a world record fee for Shearer. This would be a statement signing. What I've got to say and if I was him, it is the right time for him to move on. Leicester have been unbelievable. They've been fabulous. They won the league. They won the FA Cup. You get the impression now that their bubble's slightly burst. Newcastle will overtake Leicester in the pecking order in the next 12 months. I think there's no question about that. The trouble is twofold for me. We have alerted a situation where the two North London clubs are very keen on him, Arsenal and Spurs, and that's serious competition, particularly Spurs because of Europe, etc. That's serious competition for us. And if we are to get him, we are playing on the fact that Leicester are cash-strapped. They're in this thing. They haven't been able to buy anybody. They're reluctant to get rid of people. They've had to allow Schmeichel to go, though that wasn't going to bring them pots of money because of his age. And, Fofana or Madison or Tielemans or the winger, somebody's going to have to go as well. And we're playing on that and trying to get him on the cheap. But for me, this guy is worth more than 45 million. If Joe Linton was worth 40 million as a centre forward, not as a midfield player, this fella is worth more than 45 million. We won't get him for 45 million. We'll have to go the whole hog or forget about him. He's not going to be available to us for that sort of dough because they're getting, if they let Madison go, they're running up the white flag in the league because you're going to go backwards selling players of that quality. Don't we know about it in the past? What'll be Italy and Gascoigne? You don't do that. They're running up the white flag. So they'll want to squeeze every bit of juice out of the lemon. And we'll have to pay more than the 45 million to get him. But I would be so excited by this signing because I think it would be a huge statement of intent. I'm delighted we're in for him. It doesn't matter that he's not an out-and-out centre-forward or right winger, which are the two positions we've been after, because he's a combination of a maker and a taker of goals all in one package. And I think it'd be great for us. I hope that we can press on and have a real pop for this guy.
Yeah, I mean, lots of points coming in. Kenneth Wilson says, "Is he worth 60 million, Malcolm?" Which is the price that's been bandied around on the media.
Well, you see that the prices that other players are going for. I think that Newcastle are one. I don't think they've got the permission, have they, to spend 60 million? I think that they're now limited to 50 million. Am I right in that, John?
I'm not certain that you are, but certainly the situation is, Mal, that if they spend in that area, they're not able to spend anything else. They would have to take anybody else on loan. But of course, there's always the situation that can help us. Like, they are looking at they need a goalkeeper with Schmeichel out there.
Yes.
Got a passion interest
and Dubravka would
let that happen. What exactly is the amount of money that the still owes for Perez that can be worked into that equation as well? So there's
always helpful in
yes. There's
negotiations.
A little bit of leeway, Malcolm, but I'm delighted we're going down that road. I think we've got to be realistic, and this board and Dan Ashworth are realistic. They'll know. You test the water. If they're skint and they're desperate, you never know. You might get somebody on the cheap. But they know that this guy's worth more than 45 million. Let's, debatable how much more he's worth, but he's worth more. There's no question about that. If we are to land him, we're not going to land him for that much money, because all that'll happen is Spurs will come along, or Arsenal will come along and blow us out the water with his 60 million, 65 million pound offer.
Sure, but then they would still negotiate that will be paid over a number of years, probably the number of years of his contract.
But that's the other thing, Malcolm. That's the other thing. Because Leicester was skint, they're trying to get as much as possible up front.
Yes, I understand that. But at the same time, John, that from what I understand, that there is 9 million still owed on the Perez deal. That could be wiped off. That's a major factor in all of this. And of course, if they want Dubravka, well, what's Dubravka worth? 10 million?
The club has got to decide that. How badly do they want him?
Right. Let's just say 10 million. And I don't think that's overstretching it. Then 9 million on Perez, 10 million on Dubravka, and so there's a player swap plus cash from Newcastle, and it works out at a 60 million deal, John. If they pay 40 for him,
I think he'd be a wonderful sign for us. I am apprehensive about Arsenal and Spurs, because he is tempted by them, and you're going to be tempted by them.
Yeah.
Because in the pecking order, the current pecking order, they're ahead of us in the current pecking order. So they would be if it comes down to the player himself, they would be a serious competition for us. But let's go in there with all guns blazers. Let's not do anything silly, because we're not going to be held to ransom on anybody, however good they are. Newcastle don't do that, and this board will not allow that to happen. But let's have a pop, because let's be ambitious. You see, I've got to be truthful. I've been delighted, and I've said it many times on this program, what Newcastle have done in the transfer market since the takeover, what they did in January and what they've done so far this summer. But let's be truthful. This summer, we've got 3 signings in: a goalkeeper, a centre-half, and a left-back. Now, with the other signings from January, we've sorted the back out, and we've got Bruno in midfield. But the difficult part of the pitch, the offensive part of our game, we haven't been able to address yet to a satisfactory conclusion. We haven't got a winger, a centre-forward, an attacking midfielder that scores goals. That is the breakthrough we want. If we were going in not to the season on Saturday, but going into the rest of the season with what we've got now, I would fear for us offensively. We're not strong enough in depth offensively for me. And therefore we've got to address it, whether we're addressing it with Cornet or Vermeer or Madison or anyone else.
Sure.
We've got to address that. As things stand, we're slightly lightweight up top. We're terrific defensively. We're lightweight going forward.
Yeah, we are plenty of points coming in tonight. Michael asks, he says, I think the very public bidding for Madison is a smokescreen. Yes, they would like him for the price they are bidding, but probably don't believe Leicester will accept. They've got another target. Is this a bit of a smokescreen, do you think, Mal? I mean, Newcastle, of course, been linked with Harvey Barnes at Leicester, been linked with Tielemans at Leicester, and of course the name Paqueta won't go away. Is this Newcastle playing a bit of a game here and making the people who are at Paqueta's club go, oh, well, look, they've turned their attention to somebody else. Maybe we should get this deal done. Otherwise, we're going to miss out completely. Is there a bit of that, do you think?
Well, possibly, but I think the whole thing is exaggerated, because there's not just now all of the daily and Sunday newspapers who have transfer columns literally on a daily basis in the newspapers at the moment. But you've got all the online situation as well. And so everybody's wanting to come up with a different name, and so they're chucking all sorts in. And I find that the best way to go is to just sit back, wait until it's done, and then make my mind up. Because Newcastle, the one thing that is now happening, total silence. You're not getting a hint or a clue from Newcastle as to what business they're about to do. And good for them on that. I think that's how it should be done. I've always thought that. And I'm sure that, before the transfer window ends, I'm sure we'll be in for a pleasant surprise. But if you know, when you've got somebody like Madison in the offing, you sort of push the situation to make yourselves favourite and get it done. And so if I were Newcastle, I'd be pushing the situation. I think Madison would be absolutely ideal for this club. It would be a hell of a move. It would be positionally, he would be absolutely first class for us.
And of course, one of the answers to the situation, and it's only a side thing, guys, is that, you know, we're talking about getting an out-and-out centre forward. And if we do, will he have to be willing to sit on the bench and come in when Callum Wilson's injured? Because we don't play two up front. But if you get Madison, you've got 18 goals coming in the season from
absolutely
that isn't a centre forward. So he's the best support regularly in the team to Wilson to score goals. Yes, Willick goes forward for goals. Yes, Bruno goes forward for goals. But are we expecting one of them to get 18 this coming season as the attacking midfielder? No. Madison did that last season.
Yes. And Leicester weren't the best of sides.
Absolutely correct. They were showing the first signs, Malcolm, of being frayed, which is what they are now. From the side they were when they won the Championship and then the Community Shield and the FA Cup. They were showing the first signs of being frayed. Yes, yet he weighed in like that. Would be a good player. I'm not sticking all my eggs in one basket. There could be other outstanding players, but he's the one that's come up, and he does tick virtually every box for me, I've got to say.
Yeah, Kevin says, sorry to say, but we're only Botman better off than last season. Pope not needed. So please tell me, every player we've bid for since Botman, we've not been successful. #worried, says Kevin. There is a few supporters getting a little bit concerned, but still just less than a month to go. So don't forget that. Alan does say, surely a decent centre forward is still our number one target, lads. As we know, Chris Wood never stays fully fit for a season, or Callum Wilson for that matter. I think that's who we meant. He put CW.
Callum Wilson.
Yeah, Callum Wilson. That's who we meant. Yeah. And Ian, stop being mischievous. Does Supermac reckon he'd score more than Wood now if he laced up his boots one last time? Surely he's got better movement. Don't start that off again.
We'll have to cancel the rest of the programme if you start that one.
If Madison comes in, or if Paqueta comes in, Tom's asking, does it pave the way for Shelby to leave, Malcolm?
Well, I saw a column, an article where Shelby was interviewed, and he was saying he's turning over a new leaf. He's determined to stay at Newcastle and all of that. And I thought, I'm not impressed. I haven't been impressed by him. He's got a huge amount of ability, but I think he uses it only in very selfish ways. And Yes, because if he were available, I would get him in an instant. I really would. He's a. Sorry, John.
I was going to just say, if Madison did come in, and it's a big if, because I still think the odds are against it as we're sitting here tonight, but you never know. But if he did come in, it would mean that there would be a centre midfield guy that would be available to go out, because you've got to bear in mind that Elliot Anderson's coming into the frame now as a support from the bench.
Yes.
You would then look at and say, if we have Willick, if we have Sean Longstaff, if we have Shelby, as well as Joe Linton and Bruno, and Elliot Anderson waiting to be part of it, we could let one of those go. But of course, you've got to get a guy in first. And I would rather have a strong backup than no backup at all. And I notice a lot of guys are saying, yes, but we've got to get a centre forward. That would still be so if we got Madison. But you might get a centre forward then on loan. But in a way, this guy alleviates some of the problems about goals that you need because of Callum Wilson and because of his injuries. What happens when he's out? If this fella scored 18 goals for us next season, he's as good as a centre forward in terms of the goal return. That's a centre forward's return of goals, isn't it? That is a quality centre forward's return of goals. But yes, we do need still a striker because Callum Wilson will get injured, and we've known that for a while. It's just fascinating what we're going through. And I think there's been a significant step up in the last week in the sort of player Newcastle is chasing. And have you noticed, all the names we've been linked with, whether it's Madison, whether it's Timo Werner, whether it's Cornet, whether it's Jack Harrison, whether it's Harvey Barnes, they're all established Premier League players that can do the job at this level. Have you know, we've narrowed down the field and we're going bang, 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 bang towards getting a breakthrough on an established Premier League player that can hit the ground running as opposed to needing bedding in. And that's a significant point for me.
Yeah, Michael, we will be coming to John and Malcolm's teams towards the end of the programme. So we will ask you a question a little bit later on. And just want to give a big shout out, as always, to our sponsors. Thank you very much to Skips and Bins. Telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website www.skipsandbins.com. Easy, contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to Garden of Healing Dispensary, CBD hemp and cannabinoid specialists. www.guhd.com. Thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces Handmade in Cumbria. You can find them at mrvickies.co.uk. Thanks to Away Day Clothing. And thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the video technology. Thanks to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle, and the guys who run our website, NUFCmatters.com. If you want to subscribe to the channel, hit the NUFC Matters badge in the bottom right-hand corner, and you can subscribe for free. Hit the thumb up to like the video. It costs nothing to do that. And click share to share to your social media, Facebook, Twitter, etc. We are also available as a podcast on iTunes and Spotify. And Mr. Media Arts will be back this week to update that. He's had a couple of weeks off, so there has been a little drag in the uploads over the last couple of weeks. I hope he's had a very nice time. Don't forget, you can join the channel by hitting join underneath the video or going straight to the website, nufcmatters.com, and looking for membership, or use your smartphone to go over the QR code. It takes you straight there. If you do it that way, then you can get your cup, your pen, your scarf, your membership card, and entry into the monthly draw. We also give away a free car sticker if you subscribe, but you need to email John at nufcmatters.com. Don't forget, NUFC fans, foodbank.co.uk is where you can make a virtual donation to the food bank, and the guys and girls will be up outside at the food bank store over the road from Gallagher on Saturday from lunchtime. We will be drawing the Shearer Ball this Friday, $2.99 a ticket. Get yourself involved, nufcmatters.com. NUFC.com. And still time to enter the NUFC Matters Score Predictor on the Super 6. Join the Matters gang, enter into our own league, £10 per entry for the season, cash prize winner every month, exclusive Manager of the Month t-shirt, and a cash prize for the overall season winner, Trophy and Manager of the Year t-shirt. Sign up now at NUFCmatters.com. I think there's about 60 involved. And it's been great feedback from Peter Beardsley's soccer school for the first month. It's running throughout August. For more information, go to peterbeardsleysoccerschool.com. Pre-match entertainment starts again as well over the weekend, and you can catch Malcolm and myself at the Dog and Parrot. Doors open at 12 o'clock, so get yourself along to the Dog and Parrot on Saturday. And John Gibson will be with Ando, and he will be at the Black Bull. So if you want to get up to the ground a bit earlier and sample the atmosphere, then the Black and White Bull, formerly the Black Bull, of course, on Barrack Road. John Anderson will be there with John. Doors open at 12 there as well. We know people come in from different ends of the town, so great to see John got a token up there as well. And if you want to join both legends for an away game, if you aren't going to Wolves, it is on Sky. The Black and White Bull are doing a wonderful Sunday lunch, and it's a carvery. Tickets are £20 for a talk-in with Supermac and Gibbo pre-match build-up. So get yourself along to see the lads, and you can get the tickets for that one at NUFCmatters.com, and it does include your Sunday lunch. And I've had one up there, and by God, it's nice. So get yourself in there. There's only 60 seats. It is table service. Some great screens to watch the match. Get yourself up there if you want. I just want to say a big thank you to Spider VPN and L&G Funeral Directors, who've been with us for 16 months as sponsors. They're stepping down as sponsors, but they do have a new company which is launching at the end of August, and that will be getting involved in the sponsorship of the show. So a big thank you to Spider VPN and to the guys, because, as I say, they've been with us for over a year and a half now, and it's helped us massively to grow as a platform. Big thank you to Nathan and to Gareth, and looking forward to launching the new company and giving it a bit of a play at the end of the month. Looking forward to that greatly. Couple of birthdays as well today. A big happy birthday to Nikos Davizas, of course, the guy who swung on the bar at Sunderland, a bit like his predecessor in the 1960s after getting the equaliser down there in a wonderful 2-2 draw. Happy birthday to Gary Kelly. God, you've got to go back some to remember him in goal, but great servant of the club. Was judged on his height, but you know what? He made up for it with his shot stopping, and great athlete, great goalkeeper back in the day. And also Ozzy Ardiles, who didn't have the greatest of spells on Tyneside as a manager, but happy birthday to all three who still love the club dearly and still have a place in our heart. And best of luck to Simon Smith as well, the goalkeeping coach who departed over the weekend. Been a good servant, not once but twice at St James's Park, and looking forward to seeing who Newcastle decide to bring in his place. Bit different this one, Mal. Alan Little says Arsenal are the latest club to sell their soul to Amazon's All or Nothing series. I'd love to see us letting the cameras in. Is that something that appeals to you, Malcolm? Doing one of these shows where it's, fly on the wall?
No, this fly on the wall documentary. No, it is not for television cameras in the dressing room. It really isn't. I remember going to Sweden, and I was absolutely astonished that at the end of the game, before I'd even got my boots off, all the press walked into the dressing room and started interviewing all the players. And that was an accepted thing. And no. It didn't even give us a chance to just chat amongst ourselves about points that we maybe needed to cover about the game. We literally sat down. I still had my boots, shirt, all the kit, everything. And in came the press, and they're all stood around me, all throwing questions at me. No, and a fly on the wall documentary is of a similar type of nature, and it's very, very intrusive. But at the same time, because over in Sweden, some of the journalists were females, and you think, oh, come on, I just want to get the soaking wet kit off and get in and have a shower, for heaven's sake. And I found it all quite bizarre. And certainly you do not need cameras going in the dressing room, because what I must also say is that the dressing room, that is the place for straight talking, and football teams, that they need absolute honesty, and that means that people have got to have their say, and it can get a bit boisterous in there, and it's not. That's not for broadcasting. That's within the privacy of your dressing room, and so no, I not only do I think it's totally wrong, but once it's on the television, I, for one, wouldn't bother watching it. I really wouldn't. I wouldn't be interested.
John, we've seen these programs. I mean, there's been a few of them now. The Spurs one I found, rather uncomfortable as well. And I don't think it did Jose Mourinho any good. I don't know whether we saw the real Jose or not. The Sunderland one, of course, gave a bit of hilarity.
Steve, does it do anybody any good?
It did Newcastle fans good when they did it on Sunderland, but it doesn't normally. No, I wouldn't be for that. Can you imagine if they'd done that at Newcastle just 8 months ago when we had Steve Bruce and Mike Ashley? We could have been held up to ridicule all over the place. No, I think people get short-sighted to think it's good publicity, to think there's a few quid in it. People at a voyeur might like it. I certainly wouldn't want it to be part of my club, because it would have to be either A, false, because it was diluted, or B, if it showed all the warts and everything, where's the pluses out of that? So
sure.
Alone in the media game, I wouldn't want it to happen to my club. No,
and supporters, John, they have an idea of what their individual players are like, and something like this could completely ruin how they visualize their club and
Sure.
the players within.
Sure.
I can't see any benefits or anything to be gained by a football club for allowing this to happen. I really can't.
No. Strange situation. Billy says, I would have loved them to have done Newcastle till I die. The year Rafa took us up, but Sunderland till I die was quality. It was comedy value. Jason says, I felt sorry watching the Sunderland one. It was brutal. And it's one of those, isn't it? It does split opinions, but all of this is a bit strange. John says, even at all, just a football related topic. I watched Chelsea versus Leeds 1964 on YouTube. Match of the day. McCready and Giles clashed. Giles was carried off with a broken leg by 3 policemen and St. John's ambulancemen. Those were the days, lads. Those were the days.
You ran the risk in those days of rolling off the stretcher because of the people that were carting you off at times. There were the days, but it was we'll talk about Amazon. That was savage. When you got in that middle of the field, which was like a rutted turnip field, with people like Johnny Giles and Norman Bites Your Legs Hunter and Tommy Smith, the Anfield Iron, and they made your eyes water.
Yeah,
people asking if you've got a new dog.
Well, that might, I must say, well done Andy McCready for doing Johnny Giles, because Johnny Giles never got caught. He was the one that was doing other people, for heaven's sake, and for him to get caught was very, very rare.
Malcolm, have you got a new dog?
No. It's just over the back there. They've got him out in the garden, and there's kids playing with him.
Barking
right.
up
No,
the
we
wrong
haven't got a
tree
dog
there,
yet.
Steve.
That's a rough one, that, John, but we'll let it go. BT says, we've always talked about getting in a goal scorer in. Who will that be? And have Newcastle forgotten about that position, Malcolm? Look, there's still a month to go. And, for me, Newcastle certainly haven't forgotten about the goal scorer, I don't think. I mean, Timo Werner has still been linked with the club. He's one of those names that won't go away, but we'd have to do some kind of miraculous deal to sort his wages out. I know he's not a goal scorer, but Jack Harrison has been linked, continuously throughout the window. And we've also been linked with Corney, who it appears may have some chance of going to West Ham, reading the headlines tonight. But have we forgotten about a goal scorer, Malcolm? Are we about to do a Manchester City and go into the season with limited options up front and try to get goals from midfield?
We certainly haven't forgotten about one, but I think that that Eddie Howe, he's got to make the absolute right choice on this one. We don't want to finish up with another Wood, for heaven's sake. We really don't. So he's got to get it absolutely right. And if it takes him all the way to just before the window shuts, then so be it. And they're not sort of hanging off the trees, are they, goal scorers, to be honest?
I mean, the interesting thing, Malcolm, in hindsight's always a wonderful thing. In football, delivers verdicts that are cruel or truthful or whatever we want to call them. If Newcastle, between tonight's programme and September the 1st, get a centre forward in, be it a full-time signing or on loan, we'll say we've been very shrewd, we've been very clever, we've waited, we haven't panicked, we've got one man in the end. If we end up on September the 2nd with no centre forward backup to Callum Wilson, we'll be saying we've taken too much of a chance, we're cautious, etc., etc. Certainly, if we don't get some goal-scoring support in to Callum Wilson, whether it's through a centre forward, a winger, or an attacking midfielder like Madison, I might have to look at looking at where we'll finish in the season, reining in a little bit of optimism. If we get goals into this side, you can look from anywhere from 7 and 8. If we don't get goals into this side, you might be looking at 9 or 10 or 11. Because the goals, it's all right keeping them out, but you've got to score them at the other end. It's all right if Callum Wilson's fit all season. Will he be? No, he won't. No, so we've got to wait and see. I'm keeping the faith, but the simple answer is if we do a bit of good business between now and the end of the window, well done, Newcastle. If we don't, there'll be a situation whereby, are we taking a chance? And yes, in my humble opinion, we will be taking a chance. So it all depends on what we do between now and when we wake up on September the 2nd.
Absolutely.
Tom Dixon says the Premier League would like the recordings between the referees and the VAR to be released after each match with the aim of maximising transparency over the decisions taken, and they're going to be broadcast on YouTube. Thoughts on that, Malcolm?
I'm all for transparency on situations like this. I really am. If we're going to use VAR, let's make sure we use it in absolutely the right way. And if it's going to be used, it's got to be used all of the time in every single match.
Okay, what's your thoughts, John?
Yeah, I'm all for transparency. I think it's very necessary. We have laboured in the past, and in the recent past, under a situation where referees, some of them have wanted to do it but aren't allowed to do it to come out after a game and explain in front of the match of the day camera or something why some controversial decision was taken by them during the game. Now, a lot of referees don't want to be in the public eye, don't want to do that, and I can understand that. But some do, because they feel with the explanation, people would understand where they were coming from. Now, if we're not going to get that, let's have how we came to a controversial decision by what was said between the referee and VAR. I'm all for that, because it is more likely to clear up controversy than it is to create controversy. And there's some things that happen at the moment that are absolutely baffling to the crowd, to the players, and to the managers. So, in any explanation is only a plus from my point of view.
Yeah, great idea by the Premier League regarding VAR recordings. I just hope they follow it up, says Andrew. It'll reduce the dodgy decisions, which, I think a lot of us probably feel that, there's been a few over the years. John says, can the Premier League release conversations between Masters and Hoffman during the takeover process, all in the interest of transparency, obviously? So good idea as well. Rachel says, may see more honest decisions by the refs and VAR if that is the case. And Andrew says there's more chance of John Allen winning the Euro Millions than those conversations being released. Roger points out as well that the VAR decisions were rightly done quickly on the Women's Euros. Other breaking news today, Malcolm, is that taking the knee is not quite a thing of the past, but they're going to go back to doing it on special occasions. So what's your thoughts on that? Gary Neville, who's often quite outspoken, seems to feel that it's just pushing the situation back into the back of people's minds. But I mean, what's your thoughts?
No, not at all. It was a great idea at the time, and it got a serious message home. I think the message has stopped pretty much, and so I think that they've gone on just a bit too long. And yes, I'm all for scrapping it. And it made its impact then, and it's not having an impact just at the moment.
Okay, and John?
I agree with Malcolm. I think it was very, very necessary at the time. I think it had a huge impact initially. I think it's been absolutely diluted through the passing of time, which is understandable. These things happen. I think now its significance is gone, and I think we've got to keep racism absolutely at the front of the agenda. But there's other ways of doing it.
Yes, there is.
That is
and
now
also, John, that last season I actually saw 2 or 3 coloured players ignoring it.
Zaha,
and they were stood up.
Zaha at Crystal Palace stopped doing it.
Yes, absolutely.
It now become pointless, etc. I think it is a terrific. It is the honest decision and the right decision, and I don't think for any way it indicates that we're no longer concerned about racism in football, etc. That is not so, and it will never be so again. Those days, thankfully, are confined to the dustbin of history, and absolutely rightly so. But I think now is a good time to finish anything. It's like, remember, guys, when we first had COVID and we went out on the street and we clapped the National Health Service for what they'd done? That was terrific. That was right, and it was beautiful. But then it has to stop at some stage. It doesn't mean we don't care about the NHS. By Jove, we do. And we appreciate it every day we are around and we're alive. But there comes a period when you've made the impact. The impact's gone, so we've got to move on. If you don't, then you're going to drag the thing down to where people become sick to death of a certain thing. So, yes, I think it is the right moment and the right decision.
Yeah, definitely the right moment and the right decision for me. Michael asks, how do we get the best out of Joe Willick, Malcolm? Is he someone that will be on this journey long term, or will we be looking to upgrade sooner rather than later? I mean, I remember, going back to signing the young lad, there was, we were hoping he was going to sign after that wonderful loan spell. Hasn't quite hit the ground running since he came back.
No, he hasn't, and I've been very disappointed in him, I have to say. In all honesty, he has looked that when I did see him last season, he looked pretty exhausted. He looked tired coming out onto the pitch. He didn't have that 100% energy that he had been showing when he was on loan. And the difference between him on contract and on loan was quite staggering. I really wasn't sure what was going on there. And I don't think as well that when Shelvey is in the side and Joe Willick, that having signed his contract here at the club, for completed his transfer, then that playing with Shelvey doesn't help at all. He doesn't help Willick. He doesn't help Longstaff. They look, well, certainly Sean Longstaff looks a much, much better, superior player when Shelvey's not in the side. He looks more effective. And I think that Willick might well be suffering in the same way as I've seen Sean Longstaff suffer. And so Willick has got to find a way back to what he was showing us when he was here on loan. And that was getting into the box, coming in that little bit late, and coming in onto loose balls and finishing it off. And he wasn't doing that last season.
Yeah, what's your thoughts, John? I mean, I was impressed with the way that he played, in the friendly at the weekend. But I don't think, we'll come to this in a moment when we hear your respective teams for the weekend. I don't think he's done enough to force his way into the starting lineup again in pre-season.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting with Joe because he made such an impression during his time as on loan. To a great extent, he made a rod for his own back because he was never going to be able to score 8 Premier League games in a row again because it was, something extra special. He's a young lad. You hope he comes again. He gets a second wind. He is not at that at the moment, and he's certainly not in the class of Madison, who we've been talking about. That doesn't mean that he can't get a second wind. There's so many players that on the eve of a new season, we can justifiably say this is a make or break season for ... You can say it's a make and break season for Willick because he either comes again with a second wind or he fades into the wallpaper. It's a make or break season for Almiron, who's been here 3.5 years. He either makes a major breakthrough or he doesn't. It's a make or break season for Longstaff, who is got his foot back in the door, etc., etc. It's a make or break season for Fraser and for Murphy. There's a lot of people that this is going to be a decisive season, and Willick is one of them.
Yeah, certainly agree there. Okay, we've got a game coming up, lads. At long last, Newcastle United. Hooray! Back in Premier League action, and it's a 3:00 kickoff, as it should be, on Saturday at St James's Park. And it's a sold out St James's Park. And this is their first visit, Nottingham Forest's first visit to Tyneside since 1998. The visitors have also sold their maximum allocation. First game back in the Premier League, 3,200 plus will be there. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, myself and Malcolm will be at the Dog and Parrot. And we will be there pre-match and post-match. Gibbo will be up at the Black and White Bull. Okay.
And then when I get to the ground, Steve, I'm going to be upstairs, John, and I should be on Bob Moncur's table. The guest of the day is a great old Newcastle player, Frank Clark.
Yeah.
So,
who played for both, who won a European competition with both clubs.
Yes, he did.
That's extra special.
Yes.
Not many people can say they've won a European trophy not with Liverpool or with Manchester United, But with Newcastle United and Nottingham Forest,
Yes.
that's some record for Frank.
Isn't it just? Yes.
It is.
Some record.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Brilliant stuff. Ex-players, well, Sammy Abiobi's left Forest, but Jack Colback is still at the City Ground. Whether he'll feature at the weekend, who knows? The referee for the game is Simon Hooper from Swindon, and he was last in charge of a Newcastle game in our 2-0 defeat at Aston Villa back in January 2021. On VAR, which is often switched off in Newcastle games, it is Lee Mason. No TV coverage for this one, but you can tune in to Match of the Day on Saturday night to see highlights of Newcastle United's game. Okay, I'm going to start off with your teams just on this occasion, lads, because, you know, we've had the pre-season now. We'll start with your goalkeeper. And Malcolm first, goalkeeper, Dubravka or Pope?
Pope.
John?
Yeah.
It'll be Pope for me.
Okay.
Dubravka's been wonderful, but Pope's brought in current England international. He'll get the nod on the first day, I believe.
And Dubravka has never been the same from when he returned after that international whiff where he dropped 5 into the net.
Yeah. Okay. There we go for the goalkeeper. So let's go with the back four, and let's go right back. Malcolm.
Trippier.
John.
Trippier without doubt.
Left back, Malcolm.
Target.
John.
Without doubt.
So far, so good and very easy. But this is
Now
where we might see
a
a difference here. Okay, centre halves, Malcolm.
I will play the 2 left footers together, Byrne and Botman.
Okay, John.
That was when Botman signed. I always anticipated the fact that Botman would play with Byrne. I've got a feeling deep inside that Eddie Howe might go for balance and play Shaw with Botman.
Right.
But I would have gone Botman Byrne myself, but I've got a feeling that there's more balance in Shaw.
I've heard people saying, "Oh, they can't play together; they're both left-footed." You know that
Shaw always plays right, doesn't he?
Yes.
Shaw always plays right.
How many right-footed pairs are there? You see,
everywhere.
People they notice it with left-footers because they stand out that bit more.
Absolutely.
But it's okay for 2 right-footed centre halves. Now, 2 left-footed centre halves are perfectly fine, and people have seen enough of Byrne. Do you see him getting taken on either side? Not at all. He tackles as well with his right foot as he does with his left.
Okay, into the midfield then, guys. We're going to go 3 in the middle, I think. So let's start with our wingers first. On the right side.
Murphy for me.
Ooh.
Are you going with wingers or with your 3 central midfielders?
We're going with the wingers first. Who's going to play left and right, and then go with the 3 in the middle?
Okay. For me, Murphy on the right-hand side.
Murphy on the right.
I thought in that game against Atlanta, I thought he was the best player on the pitch. I thought he did some absolutely terrific stuff. He gave one absolutely shocking ball. But otherwise, I thought he was absolutely terrific.
Okay, John, right side for you.
Almiron on the right and Maxi on the left. I think I would have gone initially with Fraser on the right, but I think what Almiron's done pre-season, and I'm not a pre-season man whatsoever because it counts for little apart from fitness, but the goals and the confidence he's got, and he did finish last season as the right-sided guy. Yes, we can argue that we need to buy a right-sided attacker, which is one of the positions Newcastle are going to buy. But for Saturday, I would go with Almiron right and Sam Maximum left.
Okay, what about the other winger for you then, Mal? You've gone Murphy.
I'd go either I'd go Fraser or Richie before St Maximin. I just think he's a waste of space. I really do.
There's controversy from the big man. He's gone with Murphy or Fraser and Richie. rather than Almiron and San Maximum.
Yeah. They often they have so much of the ball, John, and do nothing with it. Do absolutely nothing.
I can understand your mentality with regards to ASM, like, because Fraser grafts and it is one of those situations. But it is a tough team to pick. Okay, who's your three in the middle, and Mal? Your three midfielders.
I'd play Bruno Longstaff and Joe Linton.
Bruno Longstaff and Joe Linton. Okay, I don't think you're going to get much from that. What about you, John?
Exactly the same. Bruno and Joe Linton picked themselves, and I would play Longstaff ahead of Willick. What it would mean, because Willick, if he was picked, would have to go into the box. It's the only game he knows. So you would then have Bruno sitting more in the Shelby role. This way, I think Longstaff would sit the deeper, and Bruno would go on attacking the box in the way that brought him half a dozen goals in the second half of last season. I would go Bruno, Longstaff, Joe Linton.
And up front, Mal, it has to be Callum Wilson.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
And for you, John?
Absolutely. And thank goodness. I hope he's sitting in cotton wool tonight, Thursday night and Friday night. And he's gentle when he's getting out his car at the ground on Saturday as well. It's got to be Callum Wilson.
I'm seeing the comments coming in, and there's a couple that have said that both guys were impressed with St Maximin last weekend. Don't you think that both Almiron and St Maximin have had enough time to prove themselves, and they still haven't done so yet? And all I would be interested in at the end of a game with both of these players, the same two questions: how many goals did they make? How many goals did they score? And I don't think either made chances last weekend, and they didn't score goals. It's all very well. Oh, they played well. Yes, they do. And then they ran.
Maximum did score.
Yes, he did score. Yes, but that's the answer that I want to a question. And now the league matches start, and well, if they do play, every game that they play, for me, is going to have the same two questions. How many chances did they make? How many goals did they score? And if they don't start fulfilling both of those, get rid.
I think you'll have to have your pen and paper out on Saturday, Malcolm, because Almiron will play on the right and San Maximum will play on the left. So you'll have to get your facts and figures down for next week when we're on here to substantiate it.
John, I've been ready 2 seasons in a row, for heaven's sake, and I've hardly been troubled. My pen is still full of ink. Look at it.
Well, next week, the show will not have to be an hour. It'll have to be 2 hours because we'll spend it on Almiron and St Maximum.
Give us a prediction, Mal.
I'll take Newcastle to win 2-1.
2-1, okay. And John, your prediction?
Newcastle 3-1.
Newcastle 3-1. Great stuff, lads. As always, pleasure to spend an evening with you. And sorry for confusing in the chat, everybody. People going, this isn't. People think it's Thursday now. I'm afraid it's not.
Is it not? Are you sure?
Not. I'm sorry, John.
It's Friday tomorrow. Oh.
You've still got a few sleeps until the first game of the season. Sorry, guys, but we should be back to normal next Thursday. We'll have Supermac and Gibbo on then. Until then, take care, guys. See you soon.
All right. Have a good weekend, and let's get 3 points.
God bless.